a paradise lost. But where did all that finery go? Just picture thousands of years ago, but not many thousands of years ago, when civilization started to experience rapid growth. Well, people were pretty much making babies. Then they would spread out and travel and go to different places and encounter different types of people. But everyone at that time wasn't behaving civil. And there were some who tend to become more aggressive. Like if they see something you have and they want, then they would be out for the taking. But they would size you up. They'd be like, wait a minute, look at me, I'm big, I'm strong, and that person seems weak. In fact, I think they are weak, so if I take what they have, I would have more than they do. So people and tribes were applying that gang mentality thing, which involves using terror tactics rather than applying the traditional tactics of hunter-gatherer tribes. So, when someone else does something and you see them do it, sometimes you will try it, especially if it works. So many tribes became more aggressive, or they simply had to become more defensive, and they weren't as trusting as they once was, because, hey, if they show any weakness or become weaker, then someone tyrannical might come in there and kill them, hurt them, and take what they got, especially if they saw value there. So let's skip ahead a little bit from there. So at this time, there was crimes happening. There were ways to distinguish between particular crimes. Like there were things such as petty theft, robbery, rape, and murder. And these things were happening pretty much rampantly or all over the place. So they decided, being that of the powers that be, that civilizations needed some kind of code of conduct or law which fell in accord with a particular moral standard. And what better way to do that than to attribute those types of moral guidelines to behaviors. So religions popped up all over the place. And they started to pop up, and they weren't as the traditional religions which were first birthed so many thousands of years ago. But these religions, they tend to emphasize on rewards or punishments in the afterlife. Like for example, they would be taught, hey, if you behave a certain way here, good or bad, then you would receive that same behavior, most plentiful of a sum, regarding vastly riches or enormous torments in the afterlife. And when you tell people things like that, you give them incentives to behave the right way as they should, as well as you scare them to death by telling them things such as, man, if you don't act right, or if you keep this behavior up, you're going to go to hell and be tormented for eternity. And then there's no way out of that. So it's proven that it works if you tell people those things, and it affects their behavior. So religions started to pop up all over the place, but they became diverse and different. And all of civilizations didn't necessarily follow the same religion. So in a way that brought some strife, war and conflict there. So religious wars were fought in which many died over. And yes, it was still beautiful things to appreciate on the world at that time, but it wasn't quite the same. So when many wars and conflicts started to arise, where many thousands and hundreds of thousands were being killed, then that indicated that things had gotten much worse, or the S had hit the fan. But these were indicators that a paradise was certainly lost. Well, tune in for the next episode.